All right, Megan. So you wanted to photograph nature and you talked about how important nature is to you. But what really stood out to me in your artist statement is when you're talking about how nature was important to you when we were in that critical time of this pandemic and how it gave you and your family a time to be together and be out in nature, and just be away from technology and your phones and everything else that is a distraction. So I think that's really beautiful as a base for your project. The first thing I want to look at is your ISO, shutter speed, aperture. And as we click through this, we can see your ISO is nice and low on all of these. And your aperture, you're switching it up to having a lot of depth of field here to not much depth of field in other images. And then we have some longer exposure, so we'll take a closer look and see if those images are all nice and sharp. The amount of light hitting your image sensor, though, your exposure for each image, not necessarily your balance of shutter speed and aperture, but your exposure looks good in all of these. There's no images that stand out to me as having a poor exposure. Now I just want to click through here and make sure the focus is nice and sharp regarding the aperture and your point of focus. So here you see our focus is back further into the tree. So this area starts to fall out of focus and the background is more in focus. So I would either choose to focus a little bit closer to the lens so that all of this is in focus, or close down so you have more depth of field with your aperture. Yeah, again here, it looks like this is falling out of focus. And then as we move back, we can get some points of focus. So just be extra careful on where that point of focus is. The light on your images, most of these images have soft light. Image, well, I guess half for, oh, there, I don't have them in the right order. Let's do that for you. Put them in the order that you wanted them. So image 2, 4, 7, and 8 all have nice soft light on them. Image number 1 has light that's illuminating the back side of the plant, which is working really well there. Here the light is coming on the dog, and here it's more dappled lighting. Here you have a backlit silhouetted image, so you have a variety of lighting here. None of it is taking away from the objects in any way. The light here as it's illuminating the edge, I think, is really beautiful. The softer lighting on these two was a good choice as well. Color seems to be really important in your image as a cohesive factor as well as something that's important in each individual image. So cohesive, I mean, all of these images have this green in them. I guess this image doesn't, but in general, we're seeing a lot of greenery, and that's really the goal of this series, right? Is to show us nature, which often is mostly green. So seeing green in all of these gives um, the visual cohesion of having them all match, and we can move from one image to the next and feel like they're connected in some way. And then there's bits of color that really stand out in the images. So these flowers for sure have that pop of color. And up here, we're looking at that pop of color. We kind of move through these succulents, finding the little pieces of color in there. And even in this image, I start to come up and find these pink flowers in this. I don't think that's part of the tree. Maybe it's a vine that's coming through the tree or something. The composition is varied also, and I think that is really important to see in a series like this at the end of the semester, that you're changing your point of view, that the images aren't all taken from the same depth of field or same focal length and same distance from your subject. So we see here you have your little dog and you get on the dog's level. Here you get nice and close to your subjects with the flowers and the leaves. Here you have a bird's eye view as you're straight above the subject and you're looking down. And this isn't quite, but looking more towards a worm's eye point of view. So moving around and looking at these subjects in much different angles of view adds interest as we move through all of them. And then the idea that this is all about nature, that that's where you find a sense of peace, comes through. And I would encourage you to just push this narrative if it's something you want to continue to work with, so that we're seeing why it's important. If it is about being with family, thinking about how you can incorporate that, how we can understand that part of the gift of nature is this recent time that we've had, and how it's been an escape for you with your family. Let's just take a quick look at that contact sheet to see if anything stands out to me. Yeah, I think these closer images of the flowers are really nice. And then the dog starts to add that narrative that I'm talking about. Even a pathway starts to add that narrative more so, because it's guiding us as to where we can go. So I think those would be interesting images to add to this overall series. But nice job with this. Let me know if you have any questions. You've done a great job all semester.